Fitting an adjustable butt pad. Step 1. Have a cup of tea handy because you're going to need it. Step 2. You need to remove the original butt pad. Now 9 times out of 10 it's going to be a Phillips screw in there, not a posi drive. And in the case of my Weihrauch, my god, you can see how mullered that screw head is. Now sometimes what you'll find is you can't really see the screw and you have to sort of feel through the butt pad to get it, and you'll see like a little area where it's kind of hidden. In that case, apply a bit of Your Name Here gun oil, or 3-in-1 oil, also Your Name Here, to your screwdriver. Slide it through the narrow butt pad hole, and that way it won't snag and it won't tear the rubber as you're undoing the screw. Let's see if I can actually get that mullered screw out. This is going to be fun. Look at the state of that screw head. Weihrauch, what are you putting them in with? I mean, for goodness sake, come on. Stuck. Whenever you've got a screw that's stuck in the item you just took off, put it onto a hard surface, press down and then unscrew. There we go. There she comes. There we go. Now that screw head's perfect. So you could do one upright. I mean, come on, for goodness sake. I'm disappointed in that. I'm not angry, I'm disappointed. How often did we all hear that when we were kids? It's an interesting little side note. That's the beautiful colour that this beach stock should have been before they put the stain on it. So it's quite nice actually, nice bit of wood. Right, step 2. This bit's fun. Now how I do it is I get masking tape. Here we go. And you'd hope on a Weihrauch it wouldn't lift the finish, but it might do. So do this, peel the tape off, wrap it back round a few times, and it just loses some of the sticky, some of the tack. So with any luck it won't be quite so vicious on the surface. But I mean, if the surface comes off with masking tape, then someone's done something seriously wrong. I go round, and what I actually do is I go over the edge. You'll see why in a minute. Just over very slightly. Quite tight. Ideally with no creases. There we go. A little crease there, that's annoying. Just fold that edge over. Okay, if I'd have done that in shot, I'm hoping you got enough of that. There we go, so the edge folded over. Now, get your butt pad, which if we'd have been prepared, we'd have had with us. Okay, get your new butt pad. Take it apart. There we go. Make sure you don't lose this little bit out of here. Put that safely to one side. and you can put the actual pad safely to one side. For the moment, this is the only bit we're interested in. So for this next step, it's a lot easier to have the gun vertical. Grab the aluminium backing plate, whatever you want to call it. Compare the hole location. Now, top hole here, you can see we've got a lip of wood, which we don't want. The bottom hole, you said bottom hole, yeah, never mind. Again, similarly, no good. So we're going to have to make new holes. Now you don't want the hole location to overlap any point. So we've got to move it as high up as we can. You want to make sure you don't move it so high that you've got no material down at the bottom overlapping. I think that's got to be something like. Now these are only rough holes at the moment. We'll firm up the location in a bit. So, grab a pencil. Well, according to the original hole locations, that doesn't actually look too bad, does it? Perhaps a bit close here, but unfortunately there's not much we can do about that. As I said, trying to locate the bottom of the butt plate without it falling off the actual stock. A little bit more difficult. So, yeah, we're going to have to go with that. Let's get a ruler. Just line it through the center line of those original holes. Okay, so you can actually see, looking at the center line of the original holes, they weren't exactly straight, were they? Look at that there. So not bad up at the top, way off down at the bottom. Let's just do a quick measure. Hate 0.5mm rulers. What do we got there? We got 16mm of 33, so we're a millimetre out up at the top. We have 18 out of 37. Again, we're a millimetre out, so that explains why I'm further over here. You may have seen me just then flick it over to this section of the ruler rather than the 0.5mm section. After 10 centimetres, usually the ruler reverts to just millimetres instead of 0.5mm. Much easier to read, and when you're not actually doing something engineering critical, it doesn't especially matter. So use this bit and just remember that that's 1, 2, 3, 4, not 11, 12, 13, 14. Maybe that just makes sense to me, but I've always done it. So we're talking 16.5 out of 33. Yeah, that's exactly central. Weihrauch, you muller your screws and you don't even put them in straight. What on earth are you doing? Yep, bottom one's perfect as well. Come on, team vending for the win. Now, I don't go to town on screws for butt plates, butt pads, butt plates, whatever you want to call it. So whereas Weihrauch use those insane screws, I'm actually going to use drywall screws because they have a nice Phillips head. They've got a corrosive protective coating on them. I just quite like the way they look, and they fit these holes pretty well perfectly. Now what you can do if you really wanted to reuse your original holes, and I did do this on the Remington because it just wasn't feasible to re-drill, you could actually get a file in this hole and take it down slightly and then use a countersink to just burr across, just run this across under the countersink in your pillar drill, and you can actually machine out then a little chamfer, and you can give yourself then an adjustable, in effect, screw positioning, but I don't think in this case we really need to. So, without further ado, let's grab some screws and let's get screwing. At this point in proceedings, it's wise to stop for a quick brew. biscuit would be nice too, but hey. These are the screws I'm going to use. You can see they're pretty short. I've never found I need anything longer than my pretty short ones. Yeah, we'll leave that there. Yeah, I mean, look. They're a good fit. They look okay. That's why I use them. They don't have to be anything amazing. This isn't a 308 or anything they're going on to. So, yeah. So I'm going to drill a pilot hole. So the drywall screws there, I'm going to use a 2.5mm screw bit for this. The way I size it, I line the screw up underneath the drill bit. I can see the threads on the screw each side, so I know there's enough meat there to hold whatever I'm putting on nice and steady. Again, if this was more critical, I'd probably use a smaller drill bit so there's the screws biting in a bit more. But you always got to be careful not to split the wood. It's always a big concern. Now what I am going to do with this drill bit, I'm going to just look here. You can see that screw location there. How much meat have we actually got? So, get your screw. There's the location. There. Hang your screw on there. Yeah, loads of meat. Always a good way to check. Yeah, there's enough, especially with the drilling out. So then what you want to do, get your drill bit and your screw. Put your screw up against your drill bit to give you the length. Bit of masking tape on the drill bit, and that has just given you a stop gauge for how deep to drill. Do a comparison just to check. Absolutely fine. Let's go. Oh, I love the smell of burning beech. Honestly, what a lovely smell. So, get your plate. Always use a Phillips head screwdriver with drywall screws. We won't solder them just yet. Okay, there we go. Now the reason for the masking tape should become clear. What you want to do is use your Sharpie and draw around. And that is showing you the material to remove. That's the reason for the masking tape, so you don't get Sharpie all over your stock. Now what you
could try is cling film. Instead of the masking tape, so you've got a much thinner edge to work with. I don't like cling film, neither does Greta. So, try and avoid it. I just end up in a mess with it, really. There we go. Now what you want to do, take your butt pad plate back off. That's why we didn't over tighten the screws. And you've then got your outline of what material you need to remove. Now, yeah, it looks a bit weird at the moment, but don't worry, we'll get there. I recommend removing the masking tape at this stage as well. Just in case, bit of paranoia, maybe permanent marker or whatever leaching through, going on to the stock, but also just in case you're to get distracted, have to start on something else. That masking tape will then dry as it does, become tacky, horrible, and before you know it, you've got a sticky mess all over your stock. Right, the tools you're now going to need. A couple of files, fairly coarse, but not like massively coarse, so you don't want them swearing like a sailor. Second cut file to smooth up afterwards. 800 grit sandpaper, 1200 grit sandpaper, your name here oil, or 3-in-1. Bit of wire wool and some metal polish. Ideally, something along the lines of a Black & Decker Workmate. Now, we want to start getting the material off of this. So I mount it fairly low. Right, now we've gone through that boring bit, let's start removing material. So all the tools we're going to use. File. Now, just have a look through, basically. If you've been using it for steel, just have a look, make sure there's no big, like, jagged burrs or anything like that in there, because aluminium being so damn soft, you can scratch it very easy. What you could use to hog this material out with is an angle grinder with one of these bad boys in it. Ideally something a bit finer than that. That's a 40 grit. You want to go for like a 120, something like that. Just be careful though, because this will put scratches in it, and if you go too far, if you go right down to that line, or you know, even just a little bit above it, the scratches, you're then stuck with them. You can't polish them out because you haven't got enough meat there to do it. So I'm going to use files. One, because I prefer doing it that way. Two, because it's currently 7:15 in the evening, so I think the neighbours probably got a little bit cranky about me firing up the old angle grinder. Not that the file is any quality. Let's just drop that down a little bit so it's not echoing quite so much, vibrating even quite so much. See, it's quieter because the metal hasn't got so much room there to actually flex about. I'm sure you don't want to see the whole journey of me filing this out, so I'm going to give you a little break now and we'll come back in a bit. This is the point where I stop with the coarse file and switch over to the second cut file. You can see there's just a little bit of material still left there. If you'd have carried on any further than this with the coarse cut file, then you are going to be at risk of putting deep scratches in, which the second cut file isn't going to take out, and you're going to end up losing too much material trying to chase out a scratch. So pop it back in the Workmate and carry on. So now we've got it to the point where the pen is pretty well all gone. So now I'll try it against the butt of the rifle. Align the holes. Where are they? There's one. Here's the other one. The idea would be to stick the screws back in, but Okay, now just use a Mark 1 finger, run it around it, work out where there's more material taking off, which I can tell is along this edge here. Everywhere else really, sorry, I can tell is along the top edge here, as we've got it. Everywhere else is pretty good. Now I reckon I'm going to stick my neck out. In the next stage, the polishing stage, we're going to get rid of that. So I'm not going to do much to it now. If it was a big lip, so this is the lip we've got. If it was any bigger than that, I'd recommend repeating the tape stage and going over it again with the Sharpie. But let's face it, that's not too bad actually, so that will polish out in the next stage, which we're going to get to now. So you can see most of the material that was removed off of it here. I wonder what aluminium's worth on the scrap market at the moment. So, pop it back in. Now get your sandpaper, get a piece of wood, wrap it around, and just start polishing out the scratches. It's all a case of putting ever smaller scratches into it to the point where you don't actually see the scratches because it's polished. The block of wood is to keep the bit of sandpaper nice and straight. You can see there the scratches I was talking about from the file. Those scratches are from the second cut file, so it's them that we're trying to polish out at this stage. Okay, that's the last of the scratches from the file took out. Now it's time to polish it. Now for this is when we're going to use the fine grained paper, and we're going to use some, your name here, oil. Extreme close-up of my hands. They're rather grubby. Apologies for that. Just keep working it around, basically. And what you don't want to do, of course, is just carry on going and going and going to the point where suddenly it's too small. It doesn't fit anymore. And that would be a nightmare. So, let's have a look. What does that look like? Pretty good. Yeah, not bad at all. Keep going for a little while, and then we'll switch over to the wire wool and the polish. Okay, give it a wipe off, ideally with something other than your thumb. So we'll grab a rag, we'll give it a wipe off, and then we'll do some polishing with the wire wool. Weapons of choice. Pop a bit onto your wire wool. Oh, a bit too much maybe. No, actually that's about perfect. Probably wear gloves when you're doing this. As you know, we're very big on PPE on this channel. Good stuff, this autosol. A little bit goes a long way. And it works very quickly. Gonna wipe off. Yep. I like it. Polished, but not overly shiny. Oh yeah, beautiful. Sometimes it. So that has not taken long at all from first marking out when I said that it was 7:15. It's now 5 to 8. I'm happy with that. I didn't want it overly shiny, just a nice finish really. Yeah, I'll go with that. Once that's clean, that will look spot on. Now, as you know, I don't just love my guns, I love my motors. Brake cleaner. Again, wear gloves. Obviously, wear gloves. Just like me. PPE. All the way. Health and safety. There's still some scratches there. We'll have to keep working at that. Okay, so one hard application, followed up much softer. They're not digging in, they're polishing. Oh, there we go. Yeah, we're getting there. I'm happy with that now. That'll do. So now we have our butt plate all finished, filed to shape, polished, looking nice. Should just be a case of screwing it down onto the rifle butt and away you go, right? Well, that used to always be the case with these, but recently I've been finding that when you actually fix it down, the slider won't slide. So we're going to have to come up with a solution for that. One would be to buy a spacer to fit in between these and cut out the centre. That would involve more work, more sanding, etc. to get that to the right shape. Or you could grind off the back of this. Now I started doing that, material's starting to get a bit thinner than I'd like, so I didn't go any further with that, and it's still hitting. So I think the solution we're going to have to do is put a slot in the actual butt. So you can see there I've drawn that out in pencil. That's basically just draw around the slot in your plate there with pencil. Shows you where you need to put in the slot into your butt. Right, well, let's make a start on cutting up a perfectly beautiful butt. So what I'm going to do, put a bit of tape on this bit to give me a depth indicator. Just going to work my way down this line. Now I know it looks like I'm being quite brutal, but honestly, you're never going to see it. What the eye doesn't see, the heart doesn't grieve over. Switch over to a chisel now. So there we have it, there's a finished slot. Okay, it doesn't exactly look that tidy, but what the eye doesn't see, the heart won't grieve over. You're never going to see it once the butt pad's actually in place. Important part is Yes, we move up and down. I will tidy that up with a router at some point in the future. Just haven't got a router at the moment, unfortunately. Penalties of everything being all over the place. So there we go. So now we've got the all-important fit up. Helps if you stab yourself in the hand with a screwdriver. We're not going to be able to solder this. Well, we sort of are. There we have it. One adjustable butt pad. Done. So there we have it, done. It's getting to be a pretty good looking rifle now, really, isn't it? In terms of the actual positioning of the butt pad, I tend to position them all pretty much like that. It does vary person to person, your build, the height of your scope mounts, where your cheek and eye alignment is in relation to, well, basically each other and the gun. Just bear in mind that moving it actually basically moves the angle of the gun in your shoulder. So in some cases you can actually alter your point of impact. So check your zero after you've fitted it. Make sure it's all comfy, make sure it fits in your arm nice, and you're golden, good to go. So thank you for watching. Sorry it's been a bit of an epic. Recommendations, yeah, have a brew or 2 or 3 while you're doing it. I must admit this actually went on over 2 days. The grinding and sanding etc. phase took 45 minutes. The rest of it, it took a bit longer. And yeah, Bisley, GunTuff, what have you done to these butt pads? Why have I now got to cut a channel in the back of my stock? Not impressed. Shouldn't have to do that. So yeah, sort it out. What's going on? Anyway, hope you liked the video. If you did, please like, share, comment, subscribe. If you didn't like it, yeah, okay, drop a dislike, but just say why and I'll improve for next time. All right, cheers.